Hi, this is Andrew Sears again, and I'm going to talk about the major project for week 4, which is developing a philosophy of ministry and leadership. So let me talk a little bit about the philosophy of ministry. And a ministry philosophy is a set of implicit values which guide a leader's conduct and thinking in relationship to practice and understanding of his or her ministry, which increasingly focus the leader towards a more effective and unique God-directed contribution to the kingdom, and which gradually become explicit over a lifetime so they can be expressed in meaningful, coherent categories others can understand. So you might think of this similar to a value statement. Sometimes it could be more of an expanded personal mission statement, but and if you go to a church and you read, okay, here are our core values, and they might list, 6 or 8 core values. Often that is going to reflect, especially if it's a single pastor, the pastor's philosophy of ministry. So let's talk a little bit about the stages of developing a ministry philosophy. So stage 1, and I'll talk about my own experience. This is, a little interesting. So you learn implicitly the philosophy experientially. So, and largely, whenever I first came to Jesus, I was just operating with the philosophy of the church that I came to Jesus through. And I thought, I believe basically 99% of their philosophy. I was a card-carrying member of of what they did. And as I got older and more mature, I realized that some parts of my call was directly in line with that church, but there are other aspects where my values were different. Not that theirs are going to be necessarily bad, but they have a unique ministry expression, and that's going to be different than my unique ministry expression. So I learned that through over here, number 2, personal lessons stimulated to value discovery, questioning and evaluation of the implicit philosophy of ministry, and evolving of a modified philosophy with some implicit value. So let me just talk about, for example, many of you might be attending a church that fits your values really well, but you might also be working with a ministry that serves the poor, a nonprofit, in the community. Each of those are going to have different sets of values, and you have to sort out, okay, how does that mix work for me, and what is, my personal mix, right? So the third level is maturity, where you've articulated your own unique ministry philosophy, and you pass on these ideas to others. So you have a sense of accountability. You need to, you recognize the need to evaluate your ministry. You recognize the need for focus. A lot of times people just, do whatever they're called to do. It's interesting. Jesus, he said in his own mission, that he was called to serve the Jews. Well, was that because Jesus was racist and he thought all Gentiles should go to hell? Well, I don't think so. I mean, he spoke against that, and the rest of the Bible, doesn't support that, right? But he had a unique purpose that he was going to do, and I think often that's the way it is. So, and you formulate your focus ministry philosophy, you internalize that philosophy, and then you articulate that. So, there's a key point in my own calling whenever, our board was together and we were trying to articulate our values. And one of our board members said, I think the 3 values you have here are Jesus, justice, and technology. And they said, the Jesus justice is you are a part of this larger movement of Bible-based Christians that want to serve the poor and the oppressed. But you have this unique thing. You're good at, technology. In this case right now, it's online education. And that became the foundation for our values. And we've fleshed that out. It's more than just 3. And what we did is we kind of had sub-values under those 3. But I would encourage you to, really reflect on, what is your core. So, so we have this major project, and the idea is this, as I explained in learning, your week 2 project was reflect on your life. This also is a reflection and to use a lot of your life reflection, but it is to articulate that in terms of values. So What we're going to have you do is you're going to work on a personal ministry philosophy and write that out. And it could be for you if you're in an organization or a division of an organization. It could be for that organization, or it could be some combination of those. And the idea, especially if you're in an organization, you could use this to say, here's, if you're the head of the organization, it makes it fairly easy. You can say, here's what our values are, and you're going to get input from others to help refine that. Or if you're in a division, you need to be aligned with the overall values of the organization, but you can have a unique flavor to your division, right? And so part 1 is going to be summary statements of principles or vision or value in a format similar to the examples that Clinton uses. So he has some examples in the books, and I'll show an example. That's going to be more of a summary. And part 2 would be an expansion of these statements that could help explain them better, including the why and the how. So this section could be, from 4 to 6 pages. And the idea is, so say you are leading an organization or a division, or even just want people to know who you are. The idea is, they don't want just the one-liner of your values. They want that to be expanded. So there's been times whenever I wrote out our values over, 3 or 4 pages. So once you're done, we also want you to read another student philosophy of ministry. And in your response, the goal is, people are sharing their hearts to you. So be affirming, be supportive. I don't want you to be critiquing. You're not trying to point out typos. That's not your role. But we really want you to be reading someone else's philosophy of ministry, because we want you to summarize what you learn and to get ideas from reading someone else's philosophy of ministry. So your review is going to be 10% of your grade for this. So you should follow APA format, is listed in step 5 of the course introduction. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have questions, ask your faculty. Thanks a lot.